here. Bob from Oregon. Carl, what's going on?
Hello, Brother Bob. I've missed you.
Bob from Oregon's Constant Gardener. Welcome to the OCG Fam Show to you, my YouTube buddies. What's going on? Let me know in the comments. Carl is back after a extended hiatus. Carl, what have you been up to?
I think everybody's kind of been on a hiatus, Bob, depending on where you're at and what you're doing.
Well, I've been hitting it harder because I can do it from my home.
That's a great thing. Well, you're kind of a mobile guy. Your stage goes wherever you go.
It does, but where it usually goes is right here because I'm a bit of a shut-in.
I wasn't going to say anything, Bob, but okay.
I appreciate it. Last time you were here, you know, that was... Since then, I haven't left much. We did go to Salt Lake City, though. The Boo-Boo's having a baby. Boo-Boo's having a baby. Boo-Boo's having a little boo-boo of her own.
Congrats. That's awesome news.
So we went there, saw her new husband, Sam. He's a slice of pie. I love this guy. We'd never met him before because, you know, we hadn't been out to Salt Lake. And then they got married because of the COVID. They didn't do a whole thing. They just went down to the courthouse. So this was the first time we'd met, you know, the father of our grandchild. So it was pretty exciting. He's a cool cat. Very cool cat. So we're loving it. What do you got going up there?
Well, I'm in my backyard.
I see that.
Beautiful yard that I'm married to it. And the wife's taking me away to the hot springs tomorrow for my birthday. I'm gonna be 60, 6 decades old, Bob. 60
years old. Good Lord. You know, I'm 55. We're like the grand poobahs of this industry. We're the oldest guys around. Everybody's a kid.
You know, we really are. At 55 to 60, you're kind of like an old man. People just kind of maybe put their hand over their mouth and chuckle like, oh, that guy.
I guess so, but you know, you see these movie stars, they're 70 and 80. Clint Eastwood, he's about 115. He's still doing it. I think we can keep going for another decade or two.
I love Morgan Freeman. He's my guy.
Yeah. He had the voice, the whole thing. You should have him narrate your videos. Speaking of that,
that'd be something.
I think
Morgan Freeman.
I think you should be doing videos. I'm just saying. I know you do videos, but I think you should do Carl's Yard videos. What with your garden and your landscaping and the whole thing. Blah 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 about that. I think people will be fascinated. I'm just saying.
All right. Maybe that's what we'll play with. I think we have a big garden and a big yard.
All right. I think it would be fascinating to the public. Anyway, you didn't come here to talk this.
Why not? Talk about anything, Bob.
Well, Microbe Life is what I wanted to ask you about because, you know, we have, like if you went to the website, there's 4 or 5 microbes on there. If you went to the store at Oregon's Constant Garden, I don't even know how many's in the store, but all of those great products wouldn't be selling if they weren't. But the simplest solution, to my mind, the one I press with people to do, is just to use the Photo Plus because it's easy. If you want to do some other stuff, you know, that's a great idea. But Photo Plus is a simple solution to get some microbial life into your soil with your nectar grow. So, but I think the thing I wanted to ask you is a little bit, if you could go a little bit into why and what the Photo Plus is for people, because I've told them use Photo Plus, but I haven't told them why or how or what. Let's talk Photo Plus for just a second, and then the larger line. Photo Plus.
All right. So, you know, I've learned a lot from this, Bob, personally speaking. When you go to trade shows, and I'm the first to raise my hand, sometimes people just lose you with the technologies and these long names that you can't pronounce, and it just sounds so good and so impressive, like, why wouldn't that work? I'll buy it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I don't know. I'm a simple-minded guy. My associates probably more than agree with that. But anyway, with that said, this is kind of how I like to describe it, Bob.
Yeah.
And of course, the majority of everybody looking at this right now knows what that is.
Sure. They see it every show. We got a bottle of that sitting on the counter.
Right. You know, so it's an additive. You know, it's not an NPK nutrient or a food. It basically needs those foods that super valuable pro-built amendments in the soil as a food. Whatever it is, it needs a food source to
work with,
with uptake. But here's how I best describe it. You know, nowadays, you know, everything's so accessible on your iPhone, on the computer. You know, even what you and I are saying, people can Google this in minutes and find out how many Pinocchios are the truth or lies behind it.
Yeah, sure.
But with that being said, vitamins, probiotics, organics, Bob, it's a big, big deal today. Even more so since COVID has taken place, because people are more conscious of their own maintaining, health and success, in their own lives with, basically what their intakes are, what their environment is that they're surrounding themselves with. So I like to always pose it like this, just to give a simple understanding. So much like probiotics that influence hormones, like what we're talking about for health here. Yeah. Proteins and enzymes inside the human body are really the same true for plants. When you think about it. Seeds are influenced by hormones to start growing. True. And begin cell division. Yeah. Microbes produce these substances and secondary metabolites within the soil to get everything going. Kind of a newborn. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah. So like humans and animals alike, plants have a circulatory system is my point. And that's, I think, more that I talk about this and more in the industry people talk about things like this, they connect. This plant all of a sudden you take a double look at. It's, I kind of look at it like a pet. Your plants in your gardens and all your growers, God bless them. They're very passionate about the energy.
It feels like the more love you give it, the more it seems like there is some sort of relation. And maybe we're imagining that, but it feels like you have a relationship with your plants.
And I believe that, and I think most all of your growers out there, they're not even going to shake their head. They're just going to nod in agreement as well. Because it's the truth. Be it it's like the precious little pets, like you and me with our doggies, or whatever it is we have in the house, they're so reliant on us for so many things. As the plants. But face it, Bob, before you and I were here, they were the whole cycle of life, living, dying, decomposition, photosynthesis, life and death again and again, regardless if we're here or not.
True.
With that said, like I said, humans and animals, like plants, have a circulatory system, which carries, food, oxygen to plant tissues, and then it carries the waste away, So the circulatory system in a plant, and again, most of the growers know this, is referred to as a phloem or a xylem, Those two things. And you can look up there some beautiful illustrations on how they work as far as the plant's concerned. And with Microbe Life, the bioformulations enhance photosynthesis, in particular with the sun, and assist in biological conversion to available plant energy. So in between the nutrient cycling, the increased light spectrum on the chloroplast of the leaf, everything's rocking on all cylinders. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
I didn't really have a question, but I guess what are you saying is that it enhances everything. It makes everything run a little smoother. It's not doing something special like some things that try to like enhance phosphorus uptake or whatever. This is something that's just like making everything. It's lubricating the works to some extent.
Well, it is. But I guess my point, leading back to where we started with this, Bob, we're dealing with natural functions here. This isn't my sales pitch. This is biology and how it works at its finest. And, this is the miracle grow of organics, I often say. I'm a big fan of your Nectar One Shot. It's a staple in my garden. It's a no-brainer. It's a time release. Just like people buy Miracle Grow Osmocote, it's their time release. We'll put this nasty little synthetic, this chemical, this glow-in-the-dark substance in our plants, and wow, look how great it looks. Well, nature does that for us too if we give it time and we maintain things properly. But back to the photo, and like I was saying, plant processes start at the top with photosynthesis, the sun. And then the carbon cycle. But the phloem, I mentioned the phloem and the xylem. The phloem transports energy into the plant, captured by the sun in particular. And carbon from the air to the root zone. So you got that beautiful relationship clicking, and that's known as the rhizosphere. It is biologically converted to available plant energy through what I'm talking about, just this soil biology with what we're putting in about. But the plant makes available materials, minerals, and water all congealing together, where they're then carried to all different parts of the plants. Through the xylem, which is a one-way street, and the phloem, which is a two-way flow. So that pretty much creates the picture, Bob. You can see just with that illustration, hopefully I dumbed it down well enough or didn't. To where you have the picture. You can see the whole circulatory system within that plant. You know, photosynthesis, the carbon cycling, how everything's clicking on all cylinders. You know, intake, outtake, digestive process, circulatory system. So much like any living creation. Be it a pet, a human, a plant. That's how it's dialed in. So that's really the intro. Now, maybe end the video with that because it was so long-winded. But that's how I like to illustrate it.
Okay.
And you go on the Microbe Life website, that's pretty much going to congeal everything that I just said.
Okay.
You know, almost word for word with that description and how that function basically has that relationship in the plant and what we're describing here.
Okay. So, in my mind, a microbial product is a bunch of microbes creating a biosphere in the soil where they're making little rocks out of big ones that are more palatable, more uptakeable to the plant. This is not that, the photosynthesis part of this thing. Does it do those two things? Are those two things the same thing? Can you explain that to me so I understand?
Well, yes and no. It's doing a lot of what you said, but it's doing other things.
Okay.
It's certainly, you know, helping break down organic matter, so it's more accessible for the plant for uptake. Okay. It's also dealing with, we have 32 strains of bacteria in this bottle. Okay, Bob? So like where I touched on it is kind of like a probiotic. We're dealing with a lot of different bacterias. I mean, this is formulated in literally a grow room, like a grow room for growers.
Okay.
Under high halogen lights for a period of 6 days. 6 days only. That fermentation process is done in clear containers. Wherever you see photo, it is always guaranteed in a clear container, nor should you ever store it in another container. This is basically its environment, what it's captured in, what it lives in, and what it dies in. So it's a fermentation process, Bob, of 32 bacteria under these grow lights congealing together. Microbe has a pituitary blend, which is the food source, everybody's secret sauce.
Okay.
That basically is in the midst, the center of that bacteria. They also input a sulfur. Sulfur sulfur is basically the food source
for what's in the bottle.
Right. And
okay.
This is an anaerobic state, no oxygen levels in this bottle. You know, how do you live in that state? So that relationship, you know, between the food source and that sulfur, basically feed it. It's living, dying. Oh, I should add this in because you get it a lot, and I don't answer it enough. People say, well, it stopped smelling. I open the bottle, it smells like, you know, a dirty toilet, smells fresh.
For real? Good. Yeah.
My smell is gone, Carl.
Is it dead?
I've only used it for maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks. What's up with that? 2-year shelf life sealed, 1-year shelf life open. But with that said, Bob, let not your heart be troubled. When you open this, remember you're releasing out that gases, that sulfur that you smell each time.
It's the sulfur, and it dissipates.
That rotten egg.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, it's something else. I mean, you can take a sealed bottle and bounce it off the table and smell it when you first get it. It's strong, but that's not the bacteria working. That's the sulfur that's in there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Sorry to walk over you.
Many of the ladies don't like it, but my wife's certainly a believer now, and she loves it.
I'm a dude, and I don't like it. But you got to do what you got to do.
But as the bottle empties, as you continue to open it, remember how compressed it is at the beginning in a sealed bottle.
Sure.
So as you basically go through this bottle, the smell is going to become less and less and less. And you also look at the space that's expanded in the bottle as everything basically gets drank and used.
Okay.
The smell is going to dissipate. It slowly disappear. Because remember, originally, why people recognize this smell is for one reason only. That's basically what's maintaining the life in the bottle. And that's why it has to be in the bottle.
Okay.
But even when that smell dissipates, and it may be a couple months, 3 months, depending on how big the jug and how fast you work it down.
Okay.
It can literally, in some cases, totally disappear, where there is no smell. Now, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to get people coming to you and say, I don't want it, it's expired, it no longer works well because the smell is gone and I know it doesn't work well. But it's not the truth. You know, if we don't put that info out there enough, where, you know, look at it as like a preservative. And that's all it is. So even when that preservative dissipates in smell, and you're still using it, and, you know, it's been not even a year, it's fine.
Okay.
Totally fine. What's going to kill it, Bob? A couple things. I sit it in this direct sunlight on this table for 3 days, 80 degrees. It's going to get zapped. Remember, it's a vegetative bacteria. You use like hydrogen peroxide, copper cleaning agents, you know, chemicals, heavy amounts of ammonia, chlorine, whatever people may choose to clean things with. You're going to zap and kill off a majority of the vegetative bacteria.
Okay.
So remember, the vegetative bacteria in Microbe Life is very, very fast acting. Within 40 minutes to an hour, we are 100% absorbed into that plant systemically. I just explained the circulatory system. This is running through the veins. And your growers that use this, they know what I'm talking about. They look at their plant in an hour after basically introducing this to them. There's a definite change that's going on. But that's because of the high absorbent rate on this product that, you know, goes in there. So that's what you're saying, you know, how it's working, what your description and asking. It is helping break down a lot of elements for increased uptake, but we're also utilizing other bacterias that you won't find in a lot of the food sources or even your teas that are running that are going to assist, you know, with plant health and nutrient cycling, you know, plant girth and stem growth. It's doing a lot of different functions, Bob. Again, you look at it like a probiotic or a vitamin. Or it's certainly complementing, you know, something like green grow or nectar. You know, the quality of the product doesn't change. But what may change for many people in grow applications where they may be using heavy salts or they're having lockout issues, this basically helps everything function on all cylinders, where that uptake of the beneficials of whatever food you're giving to them or how you're amending your soil naturally is going to be much, much more effective as far as how that plant responds and what is taken in appropriately without roadblocks. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I have a question. Why wouldn't you foliar feed with this?
You do. Absolutely you do, Bob. So on the top side, and I'm glad you bring that up because that's, some people miss that. Because people still ask me foliar feed. Absolutely you can, Bob. And from a foliar side or soil, it doesn't matter. 20 to 40 minutes, the plant takes it in just as lightning fast. Full absorption. A lot of guys, they just love the foliar because they believe there's a much more symbiotic, quicker response with basically how that plant is responding after they do an inoculation on it.
Okay, I have a question. So if you're doing this with nectar, you certainly would want a root drench with this on your tea day to work your soil over, right?
Now, you certainly would want to use it on your tea
so
day?
on your what I'm suggesting to people through the show has been that you know feed tea, feed flush situation is that your tea day is some water and some Photo Plus, and you pour that on your soil, and that's your tea if you're not going to brew a microbial tea. So you're still saying do that, but you're saying in addition to that you can do foliar feeding. How would that work?
In all honesty, and I'll give you my point of view as using it and growing with it, and a lot of our good customers, either or. You're going to either foliar it this week and maybe soil drench it next week.
Okay.
Or one or the other. You don't need to do both, Bob, because the plant's going to absorb it in no matter what application you're using for transport.
So this is a once a week kind of situation. It's not like you're going to be, you can certainly foliar and we'll see advantages from foliar feeding with it, but you're not going to be out there every day foliar feeding this. It's more of a long-lasting thing. Okay.
No, you don't need to, Bob. I mean, we're talking a teaspoon to a gallon. You know, average. You know, we have guys that, you know, like to run a tablespoon. That's fine. But, you know, in this industry, and I've been guilty of it as well, you know, more is better when you're given 7 amazing things like, oh my goodness, you know, this is just going to be so amazing.
Why not just pour it on?
But you don't need to. You don't need to. Like all the products, you know, that you and I support and we have knowledge of, a little goes a long way. And it's just fine. You know, the plants... The other thing I should say, you know, with Microbe Life products, the plant's only going to take in what it requires. The beauty behind photosynthesis, and another great point behind this product, is basically it's just going to reject and not take in any more than what it's going to use. And you're not going to create any toxicities or burning because of that, but at this point you're going to waste it. The plant knows what it needs. It's going to take everything up and circulate it to a point. It can only go so far with that.
And the rest is going to rinse out, die, or just hang out.
You know, the good illustration is like you and I taking a vitamin C pill. You know, how many are you going to bulk in a day before you just start, you know, urinating it away?
It just goes away. You take an iron pill, you know what happens.
Same thing. So look at it that way.
Okay. Yeah. Super helpful. Now, we'll do some more. I want to cover everything a little bit like this, like do this kind of like a viewer questions episode where we just go until we get it done. And then we'll get some questions from the viewers as to, you know, more specific stuff. So I guess what I want to get at this point, I think you kind of covered the Photo Plus enough to give people a basis for asking some questions or conversating about it. There's 3 other products that I would consider in the line that, I mean, like when you get that little sample kit. Can you go into how Photo Plus fits with those 3 and what those 3 kind of do somewhat briefly so that people can just get a feel for it so they can ask some questions based around that?
Sure. So our 4 core products, Bob, that you see in the sample kits that are most widely stocked in the stores are Photo Plus, Root Dip, Vegetable Fruit Enhancer, and Nourish Shell, or Nourish Seed, Nourish Shell. And there's another thing for your viewers, Bob. They're always saying, well, why is this label different, you know, Photo O versus, you know...
Oh, the letter after the end. Yeah, what is that?
It's all registering, and it's all what part of the country, the states these are being sold in. That is it.
So
it's just a label thing and doesn't mean nothing, really.
The O is Oregon.
Right. Exactly.
It's just when there's special regulations or registration issues in a particular state, you'll have a separate label that may be for basically the same product, but the label is the issue, and so that's why you have a different... So you're not getting anything special if you get the C over the L or the this or the that.
No, you're not. You're not.
Okay, so Nourish is kind of an outlier, right? That's somewhat different from the other. The fruit, vegetable, and the root dip are... Well, tell me about root dip.
Okay, so the root dip. So here's our root dip. Now, also, you'll find that a lot of our followers, even many of your growers, they love running this with the photo.
Right.
From the start of seed germination. Okay? So from the very beginning.
Okay.
And literally, Bob, you could run this till the day you harvest it if you want.
Okay.
If you look at our feeding charts that we put on, or the feeding charts are on the website, you know, people will run this with the photo, you know, right up to a couple weeks before flower.
Okay.
And then they'll put that aside.
Okay.
You know, kind of like they do with the photo at that point. But the difference, or what's neat about both the Root Dip, the Vegetable Fruit Enhancer, we have photosynthesis in both these products.
Okay.
When you say, well, Carl, the bottle isn't clear. Correct. But we have such a low concentration in here. Okay. You know, it's not the same focus as the full consortium of photo that's just dealing with a straight shot.
Sure, okay, no problem.
Photosynthesis. Yeah. But we do have a smaller amount in both the veg and the root dip to help enable what this is doing. Now, this has some other different bacillus bacterias, the veg as the root. And those bacteria are focused on root growth and expansion in the soil. And they're dealing with both the top and bottom side of the plant again. But it's other working modes that are kind of slowed down versus the nitrogen fixing, you know, that hot and heavy through that veg cycle.
Okay.
You know, but we're assisting in root growth, you know, heavily with why it's called the root dip. You know, it's eliminating a rooting hormone if you're using it in a cloner or you're taking your cuts, putting them in water, which is really nice. So, you know, you're doing something very natural in here. So people are really focused on the rooting process with the plant. When you bring up the conversation of root dip, kind of a no-brainer, root dip, duh. You know, so it's focused all about the roots. And that's where primarily, you know, everybody's running with it. So when you look at our breakdown of the labels on you know, all the product, and most of it, Bob, you and I can't pronounce. But, you know, it's just the mycorrhiza formulations in both the photo and the root, which are the big assist in, you know, what we're doing with the roots on the plant, and why, you know, this is so well received because of that. And you can see the pictures. Microbe Life does a great job of posting to Instagram and Facebook and testimonials and things that come in. And people actually see, you know, all the different functions from start to finish, from seedlings to cuts to teenagers to full mature plants, and basically how that plant's been corresponding over the whole growth cycle with the beneficial of microbes that they've been adding to it with the Microbe Life products.
I have 3 questions before I forget that I think people may be asking. First of all, we see, I'm sorry to cut in, but I'll forget if I don't. So, a lot of us use mycorrhiza in a powder form. Like we get the little bags and we clink, clink, clink when we repot or when we pot originally. Is this a substitute for an answer to doing mycorrhizal fungi in your grow?
Well, let me be careful with that, playing Switzerland. First off, yes and no. You can certainly run this with granular powdered mycorrhiza, being if you're going with Extreme Gardens, Bigfoot, Green Grow, great mycorrhizal products that people use out there. You can use ours in conjunction with that, because remember, the diversity here is we're doing some different things than that product is. Not that we're changing anything here, Bob, but it all goes back again to the consortium. How much is too much? How much is too little? Again, this is very dumbed down with the amount that you use. So again, the additives complementing what's used in, with what you're saying, mycorrhiza, this complements the mycorrhiza. It's going to help assist in better uptake. Or you're running it alone if you can't afford that and you have a low budget. This is your mycorrhiza alternative because it's legit. You know?
The root dip.
There's a formalization in here in a vegetative state for mycorrhiza for your plants.
Okay, so you would say, and we're talking root dip, not the Photo Plus that you just held up. You would say that root dip is a mycorrhizal product, but you will get better results within that small facet from a powdered mycorrhiza than you would get from this. But this is that. Just maybe.
It could be, yeah. Because you're going to have a debate, and you're going to have growers that are running different methods, saying, you know, I don't use mycorrhiza at all. Some don't like it.
Don't use it. Yeah, sure.
They love other beneficials that they're running to get the same results. So, again, you know, you can look at this like photo as a cocktail. You know, we're talking about the mycorrhiza, but, you know, we're talking about the other, you know, bacterial specifications that are also different. You know, again, you know, helping break down things, assisting with macronutrients, and deriving some of the same bacteria we have in our Nourish, our earth humics, into this bottle, again focusing on a good, healthy root mass and plant growth from the bottom side up. So it's a cocktail, but absolutely, in answer to your question, if I'm not going too far out in the left field on you, Bob, you could look at this and use it as your mycorrhiza. Yes, you could. Absolutely, positively. And is it going to hurt if you mix? No, it's not. Because You're not doing that much.
All right, number 2. A lot of times when you hear root dip, people have clones that they're concerned about buggies being on them, and they dip them to cleanse them. Is this not that?
We should be talking about no fly from Blacksmith for that.
Yeah. Okay, so this is not that.
No, it's not that. No, it's not going to go at destroying all those nasties.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it comes to, you know, larvae and insects.
Yeah.
And how they literally destroy the whole investment that you're working with.
Number 3. If you're using Clonex, some of these other things, is root dip a replacement for those in your cloner with a cut that you put into a plug to make, or you put into a cloner to make a plant?
Well, I would tell you absolutely yes. Me personally, I don't use any rooting hormone. That's why I use root dip.
Okay.
There's hundreds of others that agree with me the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have others, good close friends of mine. I'm not going to convince them. They love their Clonex and how they've been running it, and they're never going to change.
Sure.
And I respect that. It's, you know, like cars, you know, Ford, Chevy, whatever you like.
They're not wrong. It's the way they do it. It's working for them.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Okay.
The thing to remember here, Bob, for the organic-minded, no matter what it is, even if it's your vegetables or whatever you're growing with, you're eliminating a rooting hormone when you're looking at something like this.
Okay.
We're dealing with biology again, so we're getting rid of that stuff. You know, we don't need a man-made, you know, hormone put in here to help, you know, enhance the plant. You know, for the growers that do like to go this route, there is your Clonex in a different version, I guess is how I can say it.
Okay.
It's not a written hormone.
Okay, so we've covered these 2 that seem pretty clear on what they do. The other 2 are the ones that seem like a mystery to me a little bit. The fruit and vegetable enhancer?
Yep.
What's the official name?
So, I know some will disagree with me with how I introduce this, but it makes sense with basically how I say this works. So, this is our vegetable fruit enhancer.
Okay.
You can't miss it. It's in a purple label. Like the roots, like the photo, it contains live beneficial microbes. In organic. Okay. It's safe for around pets, wildlife. That's the other beauty on all this, Bob. You spill it on the ground or with the kids. This isn't going to hurt anybody. Okay. But I like to look at the fruit and veg this way. Is we're dealing with, again, a lot of different bacillus bacteria. Now, bacillus bacteria are very fast-acting bacteria.
Sure.
Many of them immediately going into working mode. You know, some may, you know, take a half hour to an hour, but most bacillus bacteria are highly active and aggressive quick.
Okay.
What they've done with vegetable fruit enhancer, I always look at it this way. You know, we understand how you want to get that plant into veg mode, grow it, you know, robust and big, a nice root mass, and it's going to basically be a stable foundation for what comes out of that plant later. But your plant health and your focus of just molding and getting that thing rocking, photo and root are a big player for that.
Right. Okay.
But with that said, now when things slow down and you've backed off your nitrogen to bam, 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 to get that veg root growth really banging as fast as possible, I always look like it as pregnancy. You know, when nature, you know, creates more humans, babies, metabolisms, intake, what you're eating, everything slows down. Okay, it's no different for the plant. You know, the plant was running hot and heavy as a little teenager, young kid getting into maturity. Now she started flowering. It's kind of like you hit a wall. It's like, ooh, I'm gonna slow the engine down now. So now everything is going into focusing on that flower. You know, not that, you know, the roots and the girth and the top side of the plant.
That's done, and now we're working on the fruits of our labor.
Right, but they're still important to maintain.
Sure.
And that's why we're still adding those beneficials to help maintain that, you know. And again, even, you know, the fruit and veg, you know, contains the mycorrhizal fungi in it as well. But not to the extreme amounts that we're talking about when you first plant.
Okay.
But the other living beneficial microbes are helping that slower feed for the plant, as far as, you know, what we're putting into it, that growth stage, depending on what it is that we're putting into it. It's assisting again with that, but it's helping keeping things in check, slowed down. And, you know, you're dealing with your terpenes, your trichomes, everything that's just coming to life, you know, within that plant, and visually what you can see on that plant, or your tomatoes, your squashes. I mean, you are seeing the difference, you know, especially in the foliage and, you know, everything surrounding that fruit. And fruit is the key here.
Okay.
So, you know, how are we preserving that growth with the fruit in the veg? We're doing it. We're still interacting with the root zone. You know, we're still dealing with, you know, the uptake, you know, the chlorophyll, everything that makes that plant go. But we're doing it appropriately in a nice time frame. And we're not doing it rapid and fast, like, you know, throwing a lot of nitrogen at it. If that makes sense. It really slows everything down. But there's a reason for that. And again, you know, a pregnant woman slows down from running marathons when she gets pregnant. So I know people say, why the hell you say that, Carl? I'm trying to create a picture. People love pictures. Look at it like that, you know.
Okay.
That's how it interacts with the plant.
So before we get to nourish, I have a question. So it sounds like that these three products, the vegetable fruit, the Photo Plus, and the root dip, are somewhat organized around the life cycle of the plant. So do we use Photo Plus all the way through and then use these at the start and finish? Do we use these three products separately, 1, 2, 3? How does it work with the light? So, because you could use Photo Plus the entire time and not use the other. That is correct, right?
And we have many that do that, Bob.
But if you wanted to dig in and you wanted to use all three, how would that work in practice?
Okay. And we'll simplify it. Now, again, I think, Bob, and I'm pretty comfortable with this, I could put 50 growers in a room right now, and we could talk to them. And I could pretty much guarantee we're going to come up with several applications that are proven and that are workable for these growers. And you can't argue that.
Their feeding schedule.
That's the beauty of the diversity here.
They may be doing it opposite, but it still works for them. They may be using root dip at the end and fruit and vegetable to start or whatever, but they found a way that works for them. But in general, what would your starting point be?
That we're just introducing it to. And it's like, you know, what's the easiest, best way for me to run this? I'm going to say, okay, look at your root and your photo for what they're designed to do, how they work, you know, in relationship with the plant. And this is going to be your value from the day you put the seed in the soil or you germinate it for the next 5 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
Those are your best friends. Okay? Now, when you know, typically a vegetable garden, you know when your tomatoes, your strawberries, when they're going to start ripening and coming into fruit.
Yeah.
Vegetable fruit, start putting that in like a week or two prior to that fruiting process to kind of get everything set up in that root zone, the microbial availability in that soil.
When you start to see budding and you see flower sites and it's going to flower on a flowering plant, that's when you would start?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, positively. And Bob, you can rock that thing all the way up to flush. Or, you know, and that's a whole nother show for you when people start talking about flush, because again, there's a lot of different applications for flush. With Microbe Life, again, we have a lot of growers that this will go all the way to harvest, because in a sense, this is like a flush because we're dealing with microbials. It's going in there, you know, helping digest and circulate everything through that plant appropriately where there's nothing left over. So in a sense, microbial and dealing with biology here, it is naturally flushing out your plant.
Okay.
Not that I'm saying this is how you should flush.
Sure.
I mean, it's up to the grower. But you're not hurting a thing. You know, again, it's on an island by itself, Bob, with how it's designed to work and what it's doing. But you're not going to hurt either way. Again, the diversity of that makes it so beautiful with Microbe Life because you have all these working elements that you can work with.
Is there a point in my grow where I would be using only root dip and no photo?
I would tell you, at the time of flower, I would not use photo more than 2 more times.
But root dip. No, let's go back to root dip. So root dip, would you use it exclusively at the start with no photo?
You could, because you have photo in it.
Okay.
I think it's beautiful. So here's a good point, Rob. What can you afford? So maybe you can afford this or that.
Okay.
So then absolutely, run with the root dip because you're getting, more than just one thing out of that.
Okay.
Or, the photosynthesis is going to help you in a lot of the same ways because, you're focusing on root growth as well with the mycorrhiza.
Okay. So now, at the other end of the spectrum, you're saying that you would drop Photo Plus and go with the vegetable and fruit at the end of the road.
Absolutely, Bob.
Okay.
And the nice thing, what's unique about the veg over the other 3 products is once you're in the flower and fruit, you can use that, Bob, 2-3 times a week if you want.
Okay.
I mean, you can be very aggressive with this. Foliar soil, well, I don't foliar my plants once they're in flower, no way, no how. I respect that, I get it.
Well, yeah.
But you got good circulation, you got good heat like today, they don't care. It's going to get fully absorbed. It's not going to be an issue.
Even when it's all nuggy-wuggy, you would still foliar, you personally?
Oh yeah, I do, and many other people I do. No, dude.
Okay.
Because, I, like others, and everything I do, I've learned from somebody for the most part, just like most all of us do. Be it the internet or some granddad or some guy in that.
Sure.
You appreciate. We all get our information from something, Bob.
Yeah, okay.
10% of it we'll do on our own. But hey, 90% of all this, Bob, we're learning it from somebody else. Okay? So the air circulation, the temperature, that's keeping everything in great working mode as far as, how the microbes function and break down.
Okay.
There's nothing there, because what you're talking about is disease. Bud rot, powdery mildew.
Yeah, but I'm talking about that you're mixing this with a gallon of water. So you're spraying water on that flower. You're not concerned about that. You personally, if there's not humidity or moisture issues, you personally feel fine with doing that and do that.
A day like today, you bet. If it's a rainy day, absolutely not. Why would I do that on a moist, rainy, humid type day? But yeah, when you got a good breeze, or say you got fans, many of the growers, they're doing fans. It doesn't matter, Bob.
Okay.
You got fans and good temperature, no matter what you're putting on that plant, it's going to dissipate and dry up quickly.
But you'll see good results from doing a root dip, a root drench, nonetheless. But you personally, you feel like you get greater results, better results from foliar feeding that all the way to the end, or just at the start?
All the way to the end.
Okay.
Breaking
news.
Well, especially on the foliar side, Bob, with the vegetable fruit enhancer.
Okay.
Even more so, because remember, you can do it 2-3 times a week, so you could be soil drenching it once or twice, and in the middle of that, foliaring. Hitting it from all angles.
So someone may disagree with your strategy, but your strategy is not just like, I'm just going to foliar because I feel like it's not going to hurt. It's because you can do it more often, in your opinion.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Typically,
go ahead.
I love the soil drench because anything, that's in that soil when you're dealing with, all different types of bacteria, it's a nice foundation for it to, congeal and live upon. But again, when you're dealing with systemic product that's fully absorbable into the plant tissue, like photo, even when you foliar with these products, it's still going to go down into that plant from top to bottom or bottom side up, depending if you're soil drenching or foliar. That, growers like doing what they're doing in regards to foliar and soil drenching. But the beauty of this, you can use and abuse this both ways. I just like to foliar with it. I just like to soil drench with it. And that's what I'm going to do. And you're still going to get great results.
Would you feel differently if you were in an indoor as opposed to an outdoor grow?
No, because then you're really playing God with the environment. You control the temperature, you control the air circulation. You can really do whatever, however you want at that point. Because I don't want any residue on my plant. My lights are just coming on. I gave them a spray. It has the whole day to basically dissipate, dry off between my fans, my heat. It's a beautiful thing. You know, face it, you got to respect the indoor guys, Bob.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time and effort that go into these indoor grows. And it can't go wrong because they have a light bill and everything else that's basically surrounding this setup. So it has to be right. It has to be spot on. And so the working capabilities, at least, are very conducive for that with that indoor grower on how he would like to apply a product like this or not like to apply it. And maybe, again, it's taboo to do a foliar, but...
Okay. So, go ahead.
Did I cover it? Did I leave it on that?
No. I think you covered it. I'm interested. I want to leave that there and let people give us some comments, questions on all that, and then get into the Nourish, which is kind of the odd man out a little bit in this scenario of these 4 products. Is that correct?
Yeah. Let me reach across the table here. Get Mr. Nourish out.
What's the story here?
Well, personally speaking, Bob, I got to tell you, not as a sales guy, just personally speaking, this is one of my favorite products in my garden. Now,
really?
I grow a massive vegetable garden with fruit trees and berries, amongst other things. But this, you know, the Nourish is amazing. You know, it's containing, you know, rare earth humics, you know, and this is again where you'll see it as a Nourish L, Nourish C. So what is it?
Yeah, what is it?
So again, all this that I'm giving you folks, and we have an updated site coming on, and we have the present Microbe Life. Pretty much all this information I'm feeding you today. Excuse me. You hear my dog howling. Good job, Keisha.
So what is Nourish C? Nourish.
So it's a unique liquid conditioner. Okay? So it's derived from a highly decomposed organic humus deposit. And this deposit, basically where they get this from, Bob, is in Georgia. And look at it like an oil mill. They basically mine down 1.5 miles to 2 miles to pull this up from a very, you know, rare, you know, highly natural carbon made up marine animal carbon vegetative compound.
It's like a tar pit or something.
Right. Well, an ocean, you know,
okay.
Millions and millions of years. I mean, you're finding in this industry now so many elements and things that are derived from those locations are just amazing.
Ancient anaerobic decay.
Right. Well, you know, so it's more complex and superior to linerdite sources.
Okay.
As well, you know, as an amazing melt of, like you said, yes, cypress and lignite. You know, coming out of old, you know, ocean matter.
Okay.
But it's a high-level food source. A high-level food source for the beneficial fungi and bacteria that we're using in our grows. And the beauty of this, or why anybody use it, Bob, is it strengthens plant cells and enhances nutrient absorption. And basically those water binding capabilities that come with all that working together is like these hot temperatures and what we've been dealing with. Like many people can say, God, we got 117, but why cannabis was so lush and green? Well, a lot of that has to do with a lot of these rock star growers with how they treat their soil and what they feed their plants and just that moisture barrier. This is a beautiful thing in helping, you know, maintain that as well, like I just described. But basically, it enhances the abilities of the plants to absorb nutrients, you know, more effectively. You know, it's optimizing all the plant functions because you're already using the photo or the root dip, and it's increasing that micronutrient uptake. You know, like I said, it increases water retention. So when you're dealing with, you know, dog tolerant situations, or you're just hurting with the heat, you know, it works beautiful in maintaining that moisture. And it, you know, provides, you know, vegetable humic acids. What isn't labeled on this is the fulvic. We have 6% fulvic in this product. Now, I'm not saying other humics are bad. You know, the linerdite,
They are humics.
There, it's valuable. But this, the beauty of it, Bob, it is 100% water soluble and break down beautifully in the soil. This is, one of our first and original where it is registered CDFA. It is also organic.
Okay.
It's just a win-win. I mean, every drop that you put in your soil from this, you're going to utilize. Game over. You get full effective absorbent rate. The disclaimer that I should tell you on this, like it's lost sometimes, though, Bob. This is the one product you don't foliar with. Because if you foliar feed with that, you are going to get some burn tips on your leaves.
Okay.
Which nobody likes.
No.
But really, this Nourish, Bob, there's small particulates of that in the root as well as the fruit and veg. Okay. So taking some of that dumbed down into these products besides the other bacillus and the photosynthesis that's in this, as I told you. The other thing is we have this user guide.
Okay.
Most stores, farms have these. I've handed them out to them. We can always mail it out to them. This basically gives you a grid on all plant required essential elements. What Microbe Life did is they basically shows you the concentrate level, what's in this bottle of 72 elements, Bob. 72 of every element that's in that earth humic fulvic bottle. That is just a game changer of rare earth humates. And we basically list them all. So you can break that down. So it's very legitimate. We're not, putting out there snake oil. That's like, oh, it's this and that, and it just works great. See what your plants do from it. We label it, we show the analysis. It's a hardcore functioning rock star. I say every 12 to 17 days running this. We have growers that'll do it once a week, every week. That's fine too. But, there's such a great absorption rate and so much beneficials behind this thing. I tell guys, God, wait, 12, 14 days. Put it on again. It's working for you just fine.
Okay, I have questions. If I had a limited budget, would I go Photo Plus and Nourish? Or would it be my second choice, not my fourth choice?
If I could only buy two products, I would go with the Photo, just because there's nothing in the industry like that.
Okay.
It's all by itself.
Yeah.
And there never will be. It's like Pepsi Cola and Coke,
Yeah.
They don't have their recipe patented, Bob. And you know why their recipes aren't patented? Because they can't figure out what that recipe is that makes those products. It's no different with Photo. They can, do the analysis, take it into labs, break it down, but they do not know the ingredient profile and how it's basically put together the way it is. Nobody in the industry has a bottle with stable photosynthetic strains of bacteria in it, which there's 2 of them in here besides the other 30 microbes. So, yes, I know I kind of went off and on.
No, that's all right. So Photo Plus is number 1. Nourish is number 2.
Yep.
Root Dip and Vegetable and Fruit are 3A and 3B.
You go either way with number 3 on those.
Okay.
It's safe bet either way.
Okay. Then
if you're going to ask me what should I buy, Carl, if I got to buy the third one, vegetable fruit.
Okay. So then if I'm using just Photo Plus or I'm using all 3, whatever with there, would I use the Nourish all the way through from when it's just a little bitty all the way to the end, or is there a life cycle issue with the Nourish?
The Nourish I would knock off the last 3 or 4 weeks.
And how early would you go with it?
Good question, Bob. I would like to go when that new start or that cut is established. So there's a window between 2 and 3 weeks is when the first application of this would take place.
I start to see 3 or 4 leaf pairs, and I see one of them's kind of getting kind of big. I see that it's actually going for it.
Let your plant get established. Don't just throw that right away out of the gate.
So, but not a teenager. We're talking about when I can see it's got several pairs going, and I see some starting to really get bigger, that it's starting to go. That point is where you would go for it. with the Nourish.
Right.
But the Photo Plus, you would, if you weren't going to do the root dip, would you be putting Photo Plus all the way through, even when you're going to clone, or where would you, or I mean, a start, a cutting? Where would you be with it?
I'd be germinating in it.
Okay.
With photo, for sure.
And then what about a cutting?
Same thing. You know, if I didn't have the root dip, I would be soaking it into cutting the photo.
And all four of these products all contain a little bit of, they're different mixtures of the same stuff to some extent. Am I correct that they?
Well, the Nourish does not have any photo in it.
Okay.
That's the only one it doesn't. And it's also the only one, as I said, you cannot fill your feed with. Or do you want to?
Okay. All right. This has been very illuminating, I think.
You're very illuminating, Bob.
Okay. Well, I think we can wrap it up and ask for some questions from people and some comments, and then go further. Can you come back and see us in a week or so?
Every week, Bob. I'd love to share.
All right.
There's so much more I want to share with you guys that's exciting, that's coming up as well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's that then. And we'll call it a show, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. I love you.
I love you, Bob. Thanks so much.
Okay. That was, ow, jeez. My legs are kind of stiffening up on me. That was awesome.